Well, hello, my brothers, and welcome back to another month of the Narrow Road. I am so glad you're here. Whether you're a guy doing this on your own or you're part of a men's group that's decided to use the Narrow Road as your resources, I am so glad you're here, and I thank you. I thank you for taking steps to become a better man, to become the man that God knows you can be. And it's such a joy to be on this journey, traveling towards heaven, towards the narrow road, walking down that narrow road with you. So guys, this month we are switching over to a new virtue, and we are focusing on the virtue of forgiveness. Now guys, let's be honest, right? Let's straight up talk about this in a real way. Forgiveness is hard. There's not one of us that are watching this video that hasn't been hurt in our life. Whether you were a kid or a teenager or an adult, whether it was someone that you loved in your life, a mother, a father, a sibling, a friend, or somebody you didn't even know. We've all been hurt at some point in our life. And when we are unforgiving, when we don't forgive the way that Christ calls us to, we can find ourselves in a bad place, right? We can find ourselves becoming a man that is angry, resentful, hateful, full of malice, right? We can feel ourselves having a hardened heart. You know what I'm talking about, right? Just think back right now to some time where somebody's hurt you. I've talked about it on the podcast before where I've had people hurt me and I thought even I forgave them. I even told some of them I forgive you, but I didn't mean it. I was just trying to get them out of my face or out of my way. I just wanted to move away from the situation because it made me feel a certain way. But I never really forgave them. And what happened was every time, I noticed this later because when someone would mention their name, even years later, all of a sudden like a switch would flip and I would feel angry and hateful and I feel like I wanted justice and spiteful. And I sometimes I'd even say like, I hate that person. And this was years down the road. The funny thing is that person probably forgot about the incident that I'm still living inside of me, in my hardened heart. And it gives them power and control over me. That's why St. Augustine says to withhold forgiveness is like taking poison and expecting the unforgiven to die. I mean, think about that, guys. If you have someone in your life right now that you haven't forgiven, and it's been years, and maybe you feel like, nope, I'm not forgiving them because that's not justice. They need to suffer the way they made me suffer. I've felt that before, guys. There's a lot of you that probably have felt that. But the thing is, you've given them power over yourself all these years. The chances are if you were to walk up to that person and see them again, they wouldn't even know what you were talking about. They probably have moved on in their life and not thought about it ever since. But yet here you sit, day in and day out, feeling that pain every time that you think about what happened. Jesus knew this. This is why he calls us all to be forgiving people, right? That's why he says to love your God and love your neighbor no matter what, right? Part of loving our neighbor is forgiving our neighbor, whether they hurt us intentionally or unintentionally. Doesn't mean we have to like them, right? Doesn't mean you got to go spend all your time with them running through the tulips with them. No, it just means I need to forgive, truly forgive from my heart. When you don't, you're full of hate and anger and malice, and it's like you're spewing venom all the time. That's why you feel the way you do whenever their name is brought up or you think about that incident, right? I can think about some right now that just burn me up when I think about it. And I'm going to have to sit down and start figuring out how to forgive those people. But the thing is, it steals our peace. It steals our joy. That's why John Paul II said the only way to peace is forgiveness, right? When we don't forgive, we let someone else be in control of the way that we feel. It steals our peace. And it's like allowing a wound to sit there and fester and not do anything about it. Because when we're hurt by people, intentionally or unintentionally, it leaves a mark, right? Our souls are not these perfect, unblemished things. They have marks on them, right? Just like when you fall down or you get hit with something and there's scars. There's scars on my arms right now. I have some on my face where things happen growing up. The same thing happens to our souls when people hurt us, whether it was intentional or not again. And if we don't address those wounds, if we don't heal those wounds by giving forgiveness, then they fester, right? They begin to be poisonous and they begin to go through all of our body like a cancer and lead to that heart closing up and hardening. And it's not just for that one person. When you've been hurt and you're not dealing with a wound, it affects all your relationships. Every one of them. That's why Christ calls us to forgiveness. He knows this. That's why when Simon Peter comes to him and says, how many times am I supposed to forgive my brother? And he says 7. He goes, no, 77 times. Jesus is basically saying every time, right? Every time. Doesn't mean you got to like them. Doesn't mean you got to spend all the time in the world with them. It just means you got to let it go, right? Because you can't let things like this, these hurts and these wounds, control who you are. Because they turn you away from God. When you have an unforgiving heart, they turn you away from God and Jesus, and they turn you towards the evil one who's sitting there going, yep, come on, come with me. Come this way, right? Hate that guy. He owes you. You need justice, right? You need to treat him in the way that he treated you. The devil's just baiting you in so that he can take the place in your heart that Christ is supposed to have, right? That's why John Paul II said forgiveness is above all a personal choice. It's a decision of the heart to go against the natural instinct to repay evil with evil. Think about that. It's a choice. Every virtue we talk about, we've mentioned it's a choice, right? This is a choice to live virtue. We have choice for vice and we have choice for virtue in our life each and every day. Forgiveness is no different. It's a choice. It's a decision of the heart, he says, to go against the natural instinct. Jesus knew it would be natural for us to hold grudges, to want justice, to repay an eye for an eye, as the Old Testament says. But what does Jesus say? Turn the other cheek. You know, if a man takes something from you, give him what else you have. If a man slaps you on one side, turn your cheek and let him slap you on the other. Guys, it seems like you're being weak. It seems like you're not being a man. It seems like you're letting someone off the hook. But that's exactly what Jesus calls us to do. And the thing is, he even tells us in the Lord's Prayer, every time you go to Mass, you say, forgive me my trespasses, and we forgive those who trespass against us. You're basically telling God, if I don't forgive me. I think that prayer rolls off our tongues a lot, and we don't realize what we're saying, but we're basically giving God permission to not forgive us. We're asking him not to if we don't forgive those around us. Guys, if we want joy in our life, if we want just peace in our life, we have to learn to forgive. And look, I'm not trying to pretend like whatever might have happened to you isn't a big deal. Maybe you were molested. Maybe you were raped. Maybe you were beaten by somebody. Maybe somebody stole all your money. Maybe somebody did something really terrible to you. But it pales in comparison to what we did to Jesus Christ. Right? The Savior of the world came down to this earth, took on flesh, because he loved you and me so much, and then we beat him, and we tortured him, and we killed him. We hung him on a cross, one of the most painful ways to die. And he forgave us. He forgives us every time we mess up. He sits there waiting in the confessional for each and every one of us to go and ask for his mercy. Doesn't matter what we've done. And he calls us to do the same for people in our lives that have hurt us. To extend them mercy, whether they deserve it or not. Forgiveness, whether they deserve it or not. This is about your eternal soul, right? Jesus has commanded us to forgive. This is something each and every one of us has to do in our lives. We have to heal. We have to heal these wounds. We cannot let them fester. We have to let the divine healer come into our heart and heal that which we cannot heal. Guys, if you're struggling with this, ask Jesus to help you forgive those that you can't forgive, that you find it painful to forgive. It may be a painful process, but I'm telling you, all this justice you think you're giving by withholding your forgiveness from them, again, they probably don't even know and are concerned about. But you're not doing any good with that. All you're doing is giving them power over you. And it's controlling your life. And it's changing the person that you are inside. Let it go. My brothers, as we go through this month, start to look at these 4 relationships. Whether it's God and you feel like he's turned your back on you. We're going to talk about that. Forgive him. Whether it's your wife, maybe she hurt you in some way or made you feel less of a man or something like that, forgive it. Maybe it's your children. Maybe it's something there that you're struggling with. Most definitely, it's probably a neighbor. Guys, work these relationships. Start to look in your life this month and write down what you're struggling with, what you haven't forgiven, and start focusing on those things. Say the Our Father every day that we're supposed to. Look at what the church is telling us through the quotes every day about forgiveness, and start to ask Jesus to unharden your heart, right? That verse from Ezekiel 36:26, I will give you a new heart. I will replace that heart of stone with a heart of flesh. That's what it does when we forgive. My brothers, I've got people I need to forgive in my life too. Don't think I won't be working on this each and every day with you. I promise you I will be. Know that I'm praying for you. Please pray for me. And guys, let's open our hearts this month to the mercy that God has shown us. And let's let go of these things that keep holding us back. And let's walk closer towards being the men that God calls us to be. Thanks for your time. God bless.